Hey guys, today as we close off with Conor McGregor's great mind, he shares with us his advice that we should all train in martial arts. And for this, to apply it to our lives, I think we have to remember that martial arts, the biggest part of martial arts, is the part of the power of our minds and how we can apply this to live a full, complete, peaceful, and happy life. Now, the physical part of martial arts is definitely beneficial. And we have to fight the negative sort of stigma or connotation associated with the fighting in the physical sense. It's the discipline aspect that Conor McGregor reminds us of, that sort of dedication that martial arts brings out, that commitment and the empowerment, the confidence that you get in being in it. And so let's apply the greatest fight, the greatest martial art in control, and that is controlling our mind today and every day. Have a great morning, everyone.
In celebration of my recent one-on-one video with Gary Vee's life coach, please enjoy this video from our vault.
Being thoughtful about the future is amazing, but not letting it cripple you is the key.
Yeah, because my problem is I would think so further in the future, I would start worrying about stuff. It's stuff that I want to accomplish before I leave this earth years from now that I want to do. Like I always,
it's great to have ambition.
Yeah, that's one.
But if you cast too much judgment on yourself on a day-to-day on how you're reaching that ambition, you're going to cripple yourself. The fact that you understand that that is your perspective means you're on the cusp of fixing it. Only thing that I've ever seen really work in this scenario where your DNA and your experiences has made you look half glass full, pessimistic versus optimistically blind, is to fundamentally surround yourself with optimistic people. You gotta cut out pessimistic and negativity, and you gotta add on optimism and positivity. It's as simple as that. You guys should be looking around at each other and whoever else isn't here, and like in order, who's the most optimist and there's a real fine line between delusion and optimism. I'm gonna be in the league, but they're not even practicing. So that's delusion. I'm gonna be in the league, and maybe you don't see it, but you see them at least doing free throws 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. every morning before they go on the bus. You know, at least he's trying. And the more difficult your circumstances are, the more likely you're around pessimism. My number one piece of advice of leaving here is whoever the most optimistic person is here, become more friendly with them. Straight up.
Your environment is keeping you where you are. Your environment has been perfectly designed to keep you exactly where you are right now. The people you listen to, the media that you consume, the habits that you do daily, all of them are designed to keep you exactly where you are. So if you want to raise your game, if you want to raise your life, you need to raise your environment. I've changed a lot over the course of having this YouTube channel. The people who've known me the best and the longest, especially in the past 2 to 3 years, have said, Evan, you've changed a lot. For the better, you've evolved, you're more confident, you have more poise, you're a better speaker, you're pushing the boundaries more, you've changed. What happened? How do I get that for myself, right? People want it. Whenever you are off growing and learning and evolving, other people, they want it. They want a taste of it. They want to do it too, because we are not designed to just photocopy our lives over and over and over again. So how did I get it? I paid more attention to my environment. I paid more attention to my daily routines. I paid more attention to the people that I hang around with. It's important. So looking at my physical environment, right? Look at this office. Look at the people behind me. This all means something to me. Looking at the new design that I've had here below. Putting things like my neck braces. It's down below. You can't really see it, but this inspires me. I walk into this every day. My YouTube videos, the channel, I create for myself. The people that I profile, I'm learning from. I feel like I have Gary Vee in my head. I have Oprah Winfrey in my ear. I've got Elon Musk telling me what to do, pushing me to try to get better. I hear these people talking about, you have to be courageous, you have to be bold, you have to believe in yourself more. And when I feel myself being nervous about something, boom, 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 it's a push that I have to do it. And so I've designed my life, I've designed my environment to help push me to get to the next step. And it's scary, and it should be. Where am I going next? I don't know. I'm still a work in progress. But the more that you are around people who push you, who make you better, who make you want to do more, who pull you up to their level, guess what? The more you're going to get there. The alternative is you're stuck where you are. You stick with your friends, you stick with the media you consume, you stick with the habits that you have. And listen, if you love your life, awesome. If you're good, then you're good. Then don't change anything. But if you're not happy with where you're at, if you know you're capable of more, especially for the entrepreneurs, you know you're capable of more. You know you have a gift. You know you're a genius. You know what's in here needs to get out there, can have a huge impact and help a lot of people. If you feel like that's you, then you need to make a drastic change to your environment. You need to change it, because everything you're doing right now is keeping you on the path that you're on. Maybe there's been some growth. If you look at who you were 5 years ago compared to now, you've grown. If you're watching this channel, you've grown, right? You've made some changes, but is it drastic enough? Like, are you proud of where you're at? Look at where you've come from in the past year, 2 years, 5 years. Are you proud of where you're at? And are you comfortable with that same level of growth for the next 5 years? If not, if you think, I want more, I want to help faster, I want to have a bigger impact faster, quicker, then the fastest way to do it is to change your environment. So if that's you, I'm going to give you a 3-step process that I think will help. Step number 1 is cut out negativity. Just cut out the people who don't serve you. Sometimes those are friends that you've had from kindergarten or high school or university. You're in the friendship out of convenience now. There's a lot of people who you might need to let go of. You might need to just let them go. They don't serve you anymore. You've walked your parallel path together, and now they've gone out. Well, they probably just stayed here while you've gone out here. They don't serve you anymore. And it doesn't mean you have to be a mean person or cold or rude. You're just not on the same path anymore. And a lot of people fight that, because you're worried about finding new friends or being around new people. And so you stick with these people who don't serve you anymore. And that's a mistake, because they're keeping you where you're at. Because their negativity, their complaining, their unwillingness to change, their pessimism, their laziness, their not chasing down goals, that becomes toxic. Even if you're trying to be a beacon, even if you're trying to be the person who pulls everybody up, if all you're doing is trying to pull other people up and there's nothing pulling you up, you're going to be limited for life. When I went to the Tony Robbins event, the second one where he invited me to come as his guest, at the end of the first day or second day, you're asked to go do a fire walk. And the whole idea is to do something scary. Well, I went home to my Airbnb at the time and I did the scary thing. I skipped the fire walk at Tony's event to go home and do the real fire walk. which was letting go of some people that I had been around for, in some cases, a decade plus, that this doesn't serve me anymore. I'm doing this just out of convenience instead of something that's actually helping me grow. And so I need to shed this skin so that I can be reborn. Like there's this new skin under you that's trying to grow, right? You're trying to become a butterfly, but you're forced to stay a caterpillar. You don't want that. So you gotta let go of the negativity. Sometimes that might be family. And with family, maybe you should cut out some of your family members from your life. Maybe that sounds drastic, but maybe you should. A less drastic version of that is just don't talk about some things. Limit access. If you know that career talk is always going to cause problems with your family, then don't talk about your career. Say, I'm not talking about that. And stand up for yourself. At what point is this your life? This is your life. Your parents, the people around you, they love you. They want you to have success. They're from a different era. They're a different generation. They don't know what's even possible right now. What they did, if you're 21, their life at 21 was totally different. Your parents' life when they were your age was totally different. They don't understand what's available right now. And so even though their message is out of love, likely, like your parents probably love you, they just don't understand what's possible. And you can't blame them. This is your fault now. You need to accept responsibility for where you're at. And limit conversations, limit exposure, cut out the negativity from your life. It's really hard for a seed to grow when it's in a toxic waste dump. And that becomes a choice. You know, a seed, where it gets planted, doesn't really get the choice of where it gets planted. But you get to choose. You get to change your environment. So choose powerfully and cut out the negativity from your life. Step number 2 is then seek out optimism, seek out positivity, seek out things that make you grow, that make you want to learn, that make you want to push yourself. Right? I have my channel that's really helped me. That every day I wake up and I'm surrounded by positivity and optimism and belief and things that drive me forward. That even if I've had a rough sleep or a bad day or whatever it might be, I see Steve Jobs right next to me staring me down. I have my parents behind me looking at me, encouraging me, putting belief back in me. I've got videos to go to that will build me up. I've got my Believe playlist of music that I listen to that will change my state and bring me back to a place of optimism and positivity. What is it for you? Is it people? Do you need to be around people physically? Can you go to meetup groups? Can you go to the library or coffee shop? Can you go join some entrepreneur circles? Can you become a part of a co-working place? Can you be around people that are positive, that are energizing for you? Or can it be your physical environment, right? Or can it be your habits and your routines? Or can it be the media you consume? What are you consuming? What are you watching on TV? Or on Netflix? Is it entertainment? Are you just shutting off your life to try to forget about your problems and just be entertained? Or are you trying to educate yourself to build a better life? This is one of the fundamental problems in the world right now. People, they have problems. You have problems. Most people choose entertainment as a way to forget about their problems instead of education as a way to make their problems better. Do you want to shut off the world and laugh at somebody else's expense and watch Big Brother and see, man, that person's life sucks? Or do you want to go build a better life for yourself? Most people don't want to do the work to actually build a better life. I hope that you do, because that's how you actually end up being happy. Do you want to numb it with drugs, or do you actually want to build a better life for yourself? And then step number 3 is schedule for success. Schedule for success. So what are your daily habits? What's in your calendar? What is the thing that makes you feel bold, alive, contagious, optimism? What's the thing? For me, it's watching videos. For me, it's going through my 5S schedule. So I start the day with singing, where I have videos that are on YouTube that they're songs that make me want to sing, make me want to dance, make me want to move. It's the fastest way to change your state. I wake up tired and maybe low energy, and then I put on music and it changes my state and makes me happy. Do that for yourself. Don't put on music that matches your current mood. Put on music that matches the mood that you want to feel like. And it's the fastest way to just, in a snap, be able to change yourself. We all have music that makes you bounce and come alive. Start your day with that, right? That's part of mine. So singing, then sun. I like getting sun, going outside, being in nature, just having sun on my face, not just being stuck inside all day. Especially in the morning, makes a big difference. My third S is soar. So I want to do something that makes me feel bold and come alive. And for me, I don't have my phone here, but for me, I share a message. I want to share a message. I want to feel like the work that I do has meaning and importance. So I think about somebody that I helped yesterday, and then I share a message on Instagram and Snapchat and put it up. That helps me soar. What do you need for yourself? then I sweat. So I'll do a quick workout and then I do something to scare myself. Right now it's doing cold shower. So I sweat and then I take a cold shower and then it's like, oh, and I do difficult things. That's my morning routine, right? I call it the 5.5 S rule because some days I'll start with a snuggle with my wife in bed. So we're seeing if that's going to become like a 6S protocol, but at least it's 5.5 right now. That's what makes me come alive. You might need something totally different. I'm okay with that. That's amazing. Maybe you need to meditate. Maybe you need to pray. Maybe you need to pet your cat. What is the thing that you need to do to make you feel bold and alive? And then schedule that in so that you're not hoping one day that something happens. You're not hoping that you're gonna meet the right person or hoping you're gonna find the right video. Like, demand excellence from yourself. Demand positivity and optimism from yourself every day. Because if you were bold, confident, optimistic, positive every morning, if you created that system for yourself, man, what could you accomplish in a year? Can you imagine? If you did something every morning that made you feel bold and confident, if you felt bold and confident every morning for the next year, imagine the life and business that you're gonna have. It's crazy. It's wild, right? So you have to create that. You have to schedule for success. Success will come from your habits. So look at your calendar. What are your habits? And if you did these habits, would it lead to you becoming a success? Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, question of the day, I wanna know, what is the optimism that you are gonna start surrounding yourself with daily? Let me know in the comments below.
You was always challenged for that, right? Like, oh, you're soft, you're different than the other rappers. Your positivity was always challenged. Like, people always wanted you to justify being positive.
Being positive,
so
right? Absolutely. Yeah, no, that was a difficult time coming up, because it's like I'm from Philly, right? So during that time in Philly, it was Joe Frazier and Rocky. So a fist fight was common. So you grew up, right? You grew up. Chuck D used to, he called it Pug City. He's like Pug City. He's like Chuck was like, damn, you can't go to Philly without getting in a fight. Right. So it's like I grew up in that. So for me to, it was always difficult for people, to say I was soft and I was, my music was cotton candy and all of that. So I always wanted to fight to try to prove myself. But fighting yourself to maintain positivity is the hardest fight you ever gonna have, right? And it's like that struggle to just stay my course, to, be the person in the world that I wanted to be, no matter what people said. And it was, I started to call it offensive positivity, right? Like, I wasn't gonna be on defense with my positivity. I was gonna be on offense with it.
A businessman was rushing down the street because he was late for a meeting. It was a really important one and he wanted to make it there on time. It was at that moment that this other man bumped into him and made him spill all of his coffee all over his brand new suit. Now, not only was he late for this important meeting, but he was also covered in coffee. He was totally furious, frustrated, and angry, but what could he do? Now, if we ask this simple question, why did he spill the coffee? The obvious answer is because someone walked into him, someone who wasn't paying attention bumped into him. And that's the wrong answer. The real answer is he spilled coffee because that's what was in his cup. If he had tea in his cup, he would have spilled tea. If he had orange juice in his cup, he would have spilled orange juice. If he had water in his cup, he would have spilled water. Whatever is inside our cup is what will spill out. When life will come and shake us, or rattle us, or push us, which is inevitable, it's what we're holding on to, or what's inside of us, that spills over. And when that happens, what comes out could be anger, frustration, pressure, or stress. Or it could be forgiveness, joy, and empathy. So we have to ask ourselves, what's in our cups? When life gets tough, what spills over? Is it gratitude, healing, kindness, and compassion? Or is it negativity, toxic feelings and beliefs, and pain? When things are going smoothly, we're not even aware of what we're holding on to or what's inside of us. Sometimes we don't even recognize and identify something until we're shaken, until something negative happens. Today, let's be proactive. Let's start by filling our cups with forgiveness, kindness, and empathy, so that when we're shaken, that's what will come out.
If you want to see my one-on-one with Gary Vee's life coach where she breaks me down, check the video on my main channel right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
80% of a human being's inner dialogue is negative. One of the things that human being sucks at, besides dreaming, is the ability to keep promises.
Good afternoon, guys. How's it going today? Are you thinking like a martial artist? And I'm not just saying in the physical sense. If you are training in martial arts in the physical sense and you've enjoyed the benefits today, that's great. But what I'm referring to mostly is, are you thinking like a fighter who fights to control his or her mind each and every moment? How's that part going today? Are you living the martial arts way of living, which is being the best in everything we do, think, and say? So in every moment, even the simplest thing like brushing our teeth or sweeping a floor, we have to remember that the martial arts way of living is to do a simple task to the best of your ability and then enjoy the compounding effects of that in our life. So get back at it again. Believe that you can do it. Believe it. Never give up on thinking like a martial artist. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
One of the things we've not covered that is such a critical part of communication, and maybe more important than even what you say, is your ability to listen to people. It's a huge part of communication. You know, I've taught you before that people don't respond to what they hear or see, they respond to how they feel when they interact with you. And one of the best ways to make somebody feel good is that they feel listened to and that they feel heard. Let's talk about some critical steps of being a great listener. You know, there's this thing that's out there too that says, hey, when you're speaking to a woman, she doesn't want you to solve her problems. She just wants you to listen to her. You've all heard this before, right? Men, that's different. Let me tell you, none of this stuff is gender specific. It's not true at all. Nobody wants you to solve their problem necessarily, not right away. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be listened to. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. And so just please remember that. This is not gender specific. Men and women aren't different on this. Men like to be heard as well. Men like to be important. Men like to be funny. Men like to be interesting. Men want to share their ideas and thoughts and worries and fears with other people just like women do. So remember this. You don't always want to just go solve their problem right away. Next thing is this. Always be asking people for understanding so that when they say something, when they're finished speaking, ask them, so what I think you're saying is, or what I'm hearing is, or clarify this for me. Because this shows how deeply you were listening when you ask for clarification. And what I'm hearing is, by the way, when you say the sentence to somebody, so what I'm hearing is, that lets them know you were hearing them, that you were listening to them. So as I was listening to you, this is what I understood. Help me understand, clarify for me, because this gives a deeper sense you were listening to somebody. The next thing is what I'm doing right now with you. Make eye contact. Look right at them when you're talking to them. Don't be distracted. Don't look around. Don't look at your phone. The way you tell me I'm important is by looking at me. I have a significant person in my life, and one of the things that drives me crazy is I'm always saying, are you listening to me? And she's always like, yes, of course I'm listening to you. And I'm like, well, could you look at me and let me know you're listening to me? I'm not going to say who that is either. But we all have that person in our life who they're listening, but they don't know to let us know they're listening. One of the best ways you can do that is by just looking right at somebody, nodding with them when they say something you agree with, right? Smiling when it's funny, like giving a normal response. You'd say, well, this is basic stuff. You'd be surprised how often you look away, how often you're not focused. The next thing is check your body language. Are you leaning in? Are you welcoming? Are you warm? Or are your arms crossed when you're talking to somebody? See, I have this tendency when I'm really listening, I get really drawn in. One of the things I do is I get very serious. And I almost begin to grimace and make a face because I'm so interested. I'm in deep thought. But what happens is my visual on my face doesn't indicate to them that I'm enjoying what they're saying or that I'm listening very deeply. So make sure that your facial expression, this may seem basic, but your facial expression matches the moment, matches the emotion. Some other people do something different. They're always smiling when something very serious is being said. That's not an appropriate facial expression, and it looks like you're not listening, or it disconnects the connection, if you will, no pun intended, between you and that person. So check your facial expressions. Make sure you're looking at them. Check your physiology and your body language. The next thing is that when someone's talking, the highest form of listening is to let them finish their sentence. Do not interrupt them. Do not interrupt them. I do this all the time when I get excited. Oh, really? Almost like I want to jump in and get my point in before they're finished, or I want to sound smarter, or if I don't say it now, I'm going to forget to say it. Probably the number one weakness in my ability in listening to people is my desire and tendency to jump in before they finish their thought. And what that says is, my thought's more important than yours. My needs are more important than you. I'm done listening to what you're saying. Be careful to say things like this when they're talking. Right, got it, yeah, wow, Because what that does is, it's called a nudge. You're nudging them along verbally to finish. It's like, hurry up, I got something to say. Right. And that nudges them verbally. I used to think that those were things I was saying that confirmed what they were saying, but it was really what was really happening is I would nudge. Better is that when they're done, you say, wow, or that's interesting, or you at least respond when they're finished. All responses are wonderful once they're finished speaking, but don't do the verbal nudges that get them to speed up and finish. Don't finish sentences for people next. It's another thing I do. They'll be saying something and they'll be struggling for a word, and I give them the word. Let them find the word. It's their word, not yours. And you're stealing control of the conversation from them and making them feel like you're not listening to them. Don't finish their sentences. Don't give them better words. Don't talk over them. Don't interrupt them. These are all things that we all kind of do from time to time when we get excited. I'm not suggesting if someone is making an incredible point that you don't begin to laugh or jump in. When it's your pattern with somebody, you're not being a good listener. Also, use acknowledgement statements when they're done. I agree. That's wonderful. That's amazing. Congratulations. Like, do things like that that acknowledge what they said, because when you acknowledge what they've said, they feel open. That's an invitation to say more. But when you don't acknowledge what they've said, you don't give a statement to it when they're done, then they don't feel comfortable continuing to speak. And so ask probative questions. So when you ask somebody, for example, if they're new to you, do you have kids? They say, yes, I do. A follow-up question is, what are their names? What are their ages? Begin to learn the volley of follow-up questions. The more specific questions you ask, the more what I call follow-up questions, the more and more interested you appear to somebody.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn the 7 habits to use to improve your communication skills. Enjoy. Habit number 2, speak with respect with Robin Sharma.
You can say whatever you want so long as you say it with respect. That's so important. I want to suggest it to you twice. You can say whatever you want so long as you say it with respect. If your friend is late for dinner and it's important to you that they're on time, well, if you lash out at them and say, why were you late? I'm angry. That's going to put them into attack mode, which is going to cause them to be defensive. But if you say to them, Johnny or Ravi or Mary, whatever their name is, if you say, you know what, thank you so much for joining me for dinner. Before we get started and enjoy this incredible meal, if I may, I'd just like to share something with deep respect. Punctuality is so important to me, and I've been waiting here for half an hour, and your time is valuable, and my time is valuable. And I'd be ever so grateful if when we get together, you would respect my time just like I want to respect your time. You've said it with respect. Look how powerful that is. And if it is a healthy person versus a toxic person, they're going to appreciate you being so truthful. And you're also going to teach them the punctuality matters. So the second tactic is you can say whatever you want to a teammate, to an employee, to a customer, to a family member, so long as you say it with love and respect.
Habit number 3, structure your content with Matt Abrahams.
Structure is critical to success in communication. Structure helps us in two ways. First, it helps us to set our audience's expectations. And second, it helps our audience to remember. I learned this first rule very early in my life. When I was an undergraduate here at Stanford, I was a tour guide. They trained me for 12 weeks, a full academic quarter, to be a tour guide. The best thing, listen, the best and most important thing they said to be a good tour guide is never lose your tour group. You are a bad tour guide if you lose your tour group. And here on campus, they were afraid if people get lost, they might get hurt. The same thing is true in your communication. Never lose your audience, because once you lose them, it's very hard to get them back. They go to their phones, they go to their friends, they go to sleep. We need to keep them with us. Setting expectations helps. That's why tour guides always set expectations. That structure helps prepare you so you can be present and enjoy the tour. Structure in your communication does the same thing. But structure also helps with memory for you and for your audience. It provides a map, and you can't be lost if you have a map. So allow me to share with you 3 of my favorite structures that once you have your goal, you place your content into. The first structure is a comparison, contrast, conclusion structure. You list things in common, you list things that are different, and then you identify your particular conclusion. Another structure that works very well is the problem, solution, benefit structure. You start by talking about what the problem is. You then talk about how you solve it, and ultimately you end with the benefits to the person listening. Now, sometimes the problem isn't really a problem, it's really an opportunity. So this could become the opportunity, solution, benefit structure as well. Now, finally, my most favorite structure, and I'm the kind of guy that has a favorite structure, is the what, so what, now what structure. In this structure, you start by defining what it is you're talking about, a product, a process, an idea. You then talk about why it's important to the people you're talking to. That's the so what. And then the now what are the next steps. What can somebody do with that information? I like this structure so much because it not only helps with presenting, but it's a great way to set up a meeting agenda. It's a good way to structure an email. You can even give feedback and answer questions in this structure. I encourage each and every one of you to try putting your communication into this structure.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Habit number 4, talk about things you know with Gary Vaynerchuk.
My biggest secret is talk about what you know you're good at, right? Like talk about stuff you know. You know, I try not to answer questions about foreign policy or currency, or, you notice I stay away from Bitcoin, or, you know, I don't talk about the things I don't know, right? I can spew my opinion, and at the end of the day, this show and everything else is my opinion, but boy, is that grounded in really strong research and skill and practitioner DNA. I feel like my opinion in business matters because of the execution I did to get there, whereas my opinion on everything else, I have my opinions on a lot of things, but you know, they're not as grounded in as much research. They're more intuitive, which is fine. Take them for what they are. You know what opinions are, but you know, I stick to what I know, and that helps me just stream. I'm a good communicator by DNA, and by staying in my comfort zone, in my lanes of expertise, in the places where I actually spend my time honing my craft, it comes off very clean because it's very natural, because it is natural.
Habit number 5, elicit your emotions with Brendon Burchard.
The most advanced communication strategy in the world is to elicit emotion more. Elicit emotion more. To ask about their feeling. So when they describe their day, instead of you saying, oh, then what did you do next? That's like procedural. Instead, it's like, oh, how did you feel about that? Some of you guys know I was lucky to work with and know and do business with one of the persons considered one of the great interviewers in history. Both two different types of people. With Larry King is a great friend and mentor and done work with him, and Oprah Winfrey, great friend and mentor and done work with her. Both of them are master listeners. Something I learned from Larry that I will never forget, is I was kind of asking him what makes a great interviewer, and he gave me this example of the question, one of the first questions he asked Mark Zuckerberg. So, Mark, what's it feel like to be the CEO of Facebook? What's it like to be the CEO of Facebook? He went right to trying to get to like, what does that feel like? That's a big company. You know, you reach, 2 billion people now. What's that feel like? See, great communicators are listening, observing, asking about feelings, emotion, right? Oprah's magic on her set was she was able, through her vulnerability and her openness for 25 years on television at the top, to be able to have people feel so comfortable with her presence that they would openly share their feelings where that wouldn't happen on other shows, right? You watch Oprah Winfrey and then you watch like, a news television broadcast. It's completely different, the engagement she had with other people, because she was willing to go into emotion. You've got to be willing to go into emotion. If you're trying to do anything with people, lead them, persuade them, sell, help, serve, emotion has to bubble up. You need to elicit feeling from people way more often. It's not just, hey, honey, how did school go today? Well, I went to this class. I had this for lunch. This kid was nice. This kid wasn't. It's like, how did you feel about that? How did you feel about that? What were you feeling when that was happening? These types of questions are so basic and people forget to ask them, but that's what's really advanced, because that's what elicits more. What's advanced in communication strategies? What elicits more? What elicits more? But not just more information, more feeling.
Habit number 6, be clear with Brian Tracy.
My favorite word in communications is the word clarity. Almost all of our problems in life become because of lack of clarity. We say things, but they don't come out clearly. So in order to be clear, first of all, stop, and then think, and then proceed slowly. Another great word is to rephrase or repeat something. Let's say you say something and somebody goes, huh? Or it's clear that they didn't get the message. I speak different languages, French, German, Spanish, and I'm busy working on learning Russian and Chinese now. And one of the things I learned in languages is if you say something in your limited language and they don't seem to understand it, rephrase it and say it again. And if they don't understand it, rephrase it and say it again until people go, ha, now I understand. So effective communication starts with you being very clear in your own mind about what you want to say, and then being very clear when you say it, and then saying it slowly and patiently, and making sure that the other person hears the message that you sent. You can imagine in communications that here is you, and you want to communicate with this person. And so you send a message, almost like a message by telephone or by a carrier pigeon. You send a message into the air in the form of words. These words are then received by the other person, who then interprets the words in their own mind based on their own thoughts, feelings, whether they're paying attention, and so on, and then reformulates or formulates a response and sends the response back. You then receive the response, translate that into meaning and significance, and then you send it back. Between these two responses, there's what are called noise. Noise can be physical noise, outside, around, mechanics, trucks, and so on. But it can also be internal noise. The person can be hungry or distracted. It can be emotional noise. The person can be unhappy or excited. The person can have other noise in that they are interpreting what you say in a different way. So if you think about this, communications requires sending the message and having it received and checking, and then sending the message back and having it received and then checking, and simply going slowly. So it's better to be sure at every stage of the transaction that people are sending and receiving with tremendous clarity. And here's my favorite question of all. When somebody says something that you're not really sure about, say, how do you mean, or how do you mean exactly? And they will always expand on what they just said and make it clearer for you and easier for you to understand and to respond effectively.
And habit number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is really connect with people with John Maxwell.
Very few people really grab you emotionally, mentally, to the place where they really connect with you. And I've thought so often about the fact that we spend so much time, we're trying to communicate to our boss, we're trying to communicate to our family members, it's so important in our life, and yet nobody's ever really taught us, how do you really connect with people? So that when you're done talking, you realize that some value is going to come forth out of that process. And so I want to talk to you about it, and I want to read to you, and it's in your notes, but I want to read to you just a couple sentences that is in my book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, that kind of sets the foundation for what I want to do. If it is true that almost everything we become and accomplish in life is with and through other people, then the ability to connect and create a rapport with them is the most important skill that we can learn. I believe that with all of my heart. I developed this lesson just maybe 6-7 weeks ago. So let's go with it. There are just some things I want to share with you of how I learned to connect with people. Number 1, here we go. I understood the value of connecting with others. And then what's interesting is I understood the value of connecting with others at a very young age. And I don't know whether it's because I have some communication gifts that I was given by God, and so therefore it was always kind of apparent to me who connected and who didn't. But I can still remember being in my 3rd grade class and then going to my 4th grade class. Miss Stein was my 3rd grade teacher. Miss Tacey was my 4th grade teacher. And there's a world difference between those 2 years. I mean, okay, one's a little bit higher, I know that. But Miss Tacey, every kid in the class loved. I mean, this lady knew how to connect with her class. Miss Stein, totally opposite effect. And I can still remember being in the 4th grade and as a little kid saying, why is it that this teacher, everybody likes this teacher, and in my last year, no one liked that teacher? And I can still remember being in high school, you'll remember this, or maybe being in college, where you have several teachers maybe you can select for a course. Do you remember in college how you used to fight to get into somebody's class? I mean, you got 5 different teachers teaching the very same course. The credit's the credit, and hello, you got to pay for it regardless. But how everybody fought to get in somebody's. Now, why did we all fight to get in somebody's class, and we all kind of did everything we could not to get in someone else's class? Same subject, same school, same tuition, nothing changes, except one prof can connect, one cannot. I still remember even watching kids at recess. And why was it that some kids had other kids around them and they were just absolutely having a good time together, and then you see some kids and they were just over there by themselves? And I remember looking at them and saying, why don't those kids connect with other kids? When I realized I was going to go into the ministry, I became greatly concerned because I was used to preachers that were boring. And I can remember thinking, God's called me to bore people. God's called me to get up and say things that people can't understand in such a way that they don't care. And I remember how great concern to me, because I thought, this is not a good thing. And I don't know if I want to be like that, because basically the models that I had pretty much were those that weren't really not effective in their connecting and communication skills. And so at a very young age, even though I didn't understand how to connect, I understood, I mean, at a very elementary age, I understood that some people connected and some people didn't. And those that connected were successful, and those that did not connect were not as successful, period. Case dismissed. I knew that in elementary school. And it within me gave me a desire to say, I've got to figure this out. I don't know how to do it, but I got to figure it out. Now, the second thing I'm going to share with you on my journey of connecting was a mistake, okay? It's the only kind of negative example, but I've got to put it in there because it was such a problem for me that I have to pass it on to you with integrity and authenticity. Number two, I tried to imitate connectors that I admired. The few, again, my world was the pastor world, okay? The few that I knew that were good, I thought I got to become like him. And I can still remember, there was a guy named Charlie Williams, and I'm telling you, the guy was just, he was just great to look at. He was a good-looking guy, and I mean, he was massive, and he kind of looked like he was a bodybuilder, and I mean, you know, I don't know if he was a great preacher, but everybody just thought he was great just to look at him, okay? And he was an orator, major orator. And I thought, okay, I've got to learn how to do oratory. And so as a very young pastor, I tried that. And I mean, I memorized by the hour phrases so that I could say things like, I've been to Vermont, where I've seen the daffodils tucked down by the green hillside. And I just talk about and I use this phraseology, and I was so bad at it, I would mess it up every time. And I'd have rose bushes tucking down azaleas or something. And it was not my gift. And I remember I would try it, and I would retry it, and I would memorize. I remember there was a guy named Lawrence Hicks one time who preached a message, great orator, there must be a heaven somewhere. And he preached it with a Southern drawl. I even got the Southern drawl down. And I preached this, there must be a heaven somewhere. When I went to my second church, to get into churches, you had what they called trial sermons. You had to go do a sermon, and the people sat there, and they kind of decided if they wanted you to be the pastor based upon your sermon. Now, that's a stupid way to pick a pastor, but you got to understand, I grew up with a bunch of wonderful, stupid people. So, I mean, it really works in that context. And I remember I went to that church, and I really wanted to go to that church, so I preached, there must be a heaven somewhere. And I mean, they thought I was an orator. Now, what they didn't understand was the only message I had. You understand that? You know, next week I'm going to be preaching, there must be a sermon somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been able to find it, but I'm sure it's somewhere here. But I made a huge mistake. I tried to imitate people that I admired, or people that I thought could communicate. There was another guy that memorized scripture. Never took his Bible, just get up, kind of lean on the pulpit, and he just quoted scripture. So I thought, man, I'll memorize scriptures. I memorized 1 John and 2 John. You notice I started with small books. I didn't want to go with anything huge and big. And I would get up and I would try to quote scripture, and I would mess it up every time. And I saw it wasn't who I was. Now, in your notes, I said something, I put in there something that I love by Joyce Meyer. God will help you be all you can be, but he'll never help you be somebody else. I really believe that. I had to, in my communication and connecting, come to grips with the fact there were a lot of gifts in connecting and communication that I did not possess, and I was never going to be like those people. So number 3, I determined to be myself and to build on my strengths. Woody Allen one time said, my only regret in life is that I'm not somebody else. And I think we've all felt that. Doris Mortman one time said, until you make peace with who you are, you'll never be content with what you have. As a young kid trying to communicate and connect, still looking to find my way. This took me years. This is not something I got quickly. My question went from, what do they have that I want? In other words, how do they communicate so I can learn how to do it that way, to what do I have that people will want? And I just totally changed the question. What's within me? What do I have? What gifts do I have? Abilities do I have to help me to connect that people would want? And I'll tell you what I did. This is the most fun part maybe of the lesson for me, because I can still remember about 21, 22, still very young in my communication. I remember it dawned on me one day. No one taught me this, but one day in my searching to learn how to connect, it dawned on me that if I was going to connect, I had to find out what was within me, the strengths that was within me, and somehow use that into my connecting repertoire. And I slowly began over the next couple, 3 years to find out what is innately John Maxwell that allows me to have authenticity when I communicate and connect in such a way that it touches people's lives.
Good evening, guys. How did it go today? Did you train as a martial artist, or did you have success in controlling your mind in that greatest fight that we all have, and that martial arts battle? Did you control your mind today and achieve successes in your life? I hope you did. If you didn't, we got another day tomorrow. We got forever to go. So we'll get back at it again. Now I want to share with you a personal story about martial arts for me. I've never trained in it. I've never taken it physically. I do aspire and want to do that one day. But I want to share a story of my daughters who for a time did train in martial arts. And I'm so grateful that they did. Even though it didn't last for them at that time, what it did was open my mind to the martial arts way of thinking and being. And I absolutely love it because I equate it to the power of the human mind. And so let's remember that as we go on the rest of our lives. Have a great evening, everyone.
I was the closing speaker for President Clinton at CGI. And at the end of his introduction, he said to me, "Peter, why are you so positive about the future? Don't you watch the news?" And I said, "President Clinton, with all due respect, no, I don't watch the news." And I look at the data. And so the reality is that as we humans were evolving on the savannas of Africa hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, back then, if we missed a piece of negative news, like so rustling of the leaves is the wind and not a lion, you know, the negative news could put you out of your misery. And we developed an ancient piece for our temporal lobe called the amygdala, about the size of your thumb, that scans everything you see and everything you hear for negative news. And if you see it, it puts you on red alert. And it's not something we control. It's something deep wired into our brains. And at the end of the day, the news media uses this, right? The old adage, if it bleeds, it leads, is so true, right? If you ask yourself the question, you know, what's the news media's job? It's to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers. That's it, pure and simple. And so if we're paying 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news, open up the newspaper tomorrow morning and just count the number of negative stories to positive stories. It's extraordinary. It's 10 to 1. I mean, do the experiment. And it's not that they're, you know, masochistic or that they want to just, you know, have a negative mindset. It's their business. They don't show you all the other amazing news going on in the world every single day. And so I choose not to watch the news. I mean, period. I get back 2 hours a day. It's amazing. My social network will tell me what I need to know. My family will. My friends will. There's nothing I don't miss. I have Google alerts for my companies and the things that I care about. But allowing, you know, the Crisis News Network or Fox or whomever it might be to tell me what they think I should be learning, not what I want to do with my time.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Peter Diamandis, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, put yourself out there.
I'm at MIT, it's my sophomore year, and I'm passionate about space. I find out there's no student space organization at MIT. Oh my God, you're crazy. It's MIT, it should be a student space organization. And so I go to the MIT Student Center and I find out you need to get 5 signatures to start a group. And I'm the first. I get 3 of my fraternity brothers Bill, Brad, and Roland as the third, and then one of their girlfriends, Natalie. And that's our first 5. And we get it, we submit it, and I'm running the Student Space Organization. And I go and I poster MIT. This is before the days of the internet, right? Before computers, like rub-on letter type of days, like, in photocopy days. This is 1982, thereabouts. And I poster the entire campus, and 30 people show up at this meeting where I pitched this idea of creating a student space organization. And after that meeting, I was so enthralled by this level of energy, like, oh my God, this has a future. And I remember standing outside the Student Center, looking up at the stars, and sort of seeing, fast forward, this organization actually becoming what it's become. And I sent out letters along with 2 of my colleagues, and it gets published by Astronomy, Analog, and Omni magazine, and hundreds of people write letters back in, and the organization blossoms into an international student space organization. I find myself running in the living room of my fraternity, right? Now, it was a success, and I became addicted to that feeling of success. Now, had that been a failure, had I done that and next year no one showed up and it flopped, maybe we'd be having a different story.
Right.
But in the success, I was like, okay, what can I do next? And next for me was something called the Space Generation Foundation, and then International Space University, ISU, which is another major nonprofit success, but has grown into a $100 million university, around the world, and it's just been amazing. But I think part of this is putting yourself out there and trying. It's the ratio of 0 to 1 is infinite. And how do you get people to just try to overcome their fears? That's the hard part. And it's the realization that it's okay to fail, but it's even better to succeed.
Rule number 3, dream big.
We're living in a time right now where you can have a big idea and you can test and iterate very rapidly until you find the right product market fit. And things can scale. We're going from I've got an idea to I run a $1 billion company fashion anytime in human history. There are more unicorns than ever before because there's more capital than ever before. And entrepreneurs can come up with an idea and test it quickly, and fail it quickly, or iterate different versions of it quickly. And that's an amazing time. And so it's never been better to be an entrepreneur. And I talk about this in all the work I do when I'm working with people. I say, first and foremost, it's critically important for you to get clarity on what I call your massively transformative purpose. What are you on this planet to do? Doing anything big and bold is hard work. It's all hard work, right? Hard. We get this incredible, fantasy of what it was like to be Jeff Bezos or be Elon Musk or be, Zuckerberg, all these guys. And the fact of the matter is, we think it's easy. We think it's like start at idea and go straight to $1 billion valuation, but it's not. There are incredibly difficult times along the road, right? There's this period of launch your idea and then on the death of the doorstep of death over and over and over again, and not giving up. I joke that a lot of my most successful ventures are overnight successes after 11 years of hard work. Right? I know Elon well, and looking at what he did with Tesla and with SpaceX is extraordinary, but it was hard. It's still hard, and it was on. He tells the stories of being on the brink of bankruptcy, on the brink of running out of capital, and it was his sheer fortitude, right? The team at Airbnb, I mean, they iterated their idea hundreds of times to get something that works. And so, but it's possible now as an entrepreneur, where before you would, failure was a death knell. Today it's experience.
Rule number 4, become an expert.
We're living in a world where access to expertise is everywhere. You and every one of us is an expert in something. But at the end of the day, if you want to do something in your life that you don't know how to do, but you're passionate about doing it, you can reach out there and get all the expertise you need. What are you passionate about changing? What do you want to do on this planet? For me, it was space. I wanted to go to space since I was a child. I was born at the tail end of the Apollo era, and literally it formed my vision of what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an astronaut so badly, right? The Apollo program, hard to believe, was 49 years ago we landed on the moon. The Apollo program showed us what was possible. And then this scientific documentary showed us where we were going. A hopeful vision of the future. And this lit up my life. And I was absolutely clear of what I was doing. I knew my massively transformative purpose. It was to help take the human race off the planet to the stars. And after I looked at the numbers, I found out my chance of becoming an astronaut was like 1 in 1,000. I had a better chance of becoming an NBA All-Star at 5'5" than I did entering the astronaut corps. And then one day I read about Lindbergh that in 1927, he crossed the Atlantic not on a whim, but to win a $25,000 prize. And so when I gave up on NASA being the way I was going to go to space, I said, how am I going to get a spaceship to go to space? I figured out this is what I'm going to do, right? I was going to create a $10 million prize. 10 million was enough to inspire the entrepreneurs, but not the Boeings and the Lockheeds. And I was going to offer it up for the team who could build a private spaceship, carry 3 adults, me and a friend and a pilot, or an autopilot and 3 of us, up to 100 kilometers, land safely, and do it again within 2 weeks. Amazingly, that $10 million prize ended up inspiring 26 teams from 7 countries around the world who spent $100 million trying to solve it. They're all optimists. This was the winning moment in Mojave on October 4th of 2014. Here's the vehicle, Spaceship One, hanging in the Smithsonian right next to the Spirit of St. Louis that inspired it in the first place. And so for me, my challenge that I wanted to do was I wanted to find the experts out there in the world that could build me the private spaceships that would take me and my friends to space. And this idea of an incentive prize, it worked. It worked amazingly well. We didn't pay any of the losers. We only paid the winner.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, find your purpose.
A great question. If you have a lot of passionate people, can you go and solve any problem? And the question is there a lack of leadership? And absolutely, when I talk about passion, I'm not talking about passion on its own that's undirected. I'm talking about the individual who says, I am sick and tired of this problem, and I am going to dedicate my life to solving that problem. That's true passion. And I think a lot about the incredible wealth we have today, more than ever before. And so for folks like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, who I've had a chance to have this conversation with, and we talk about the giving pledge, right? Like, I'm going to give half of my wealth away before I die into a foundation. And I call bullshit on this. What I really want are individuals of means. And means comes with reputation, means comes with capital, means comes with corporate resources, means comes with all kinds of different versions of means. It's an individual saying, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of having women uneducated in Mumbai or Tanzania. I'm tired about these issues around, unequal rights, or these people being oppressed, or people not having water or food. And I'm calling my shot. I'm going to solve that problem. That's passion for me. And leadership, you're absolutely right. Perhaps I should use the word leadership as well. But the most passionate individual says, I don't know how, but I am going to solve that problem. I'm dedicating my life, and I'm announcing to the world right here, right now, this is my purpose. And I'm going to use my capital, my my resources, the best of technology I have in hand to solve that problem. And what I teach here at Singularity University is that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities, right? Aren't they? If you think about the notion of what are the biggest problems on the planet? Food, energy, water, healthcare, education, communications, housing, for hundreds of millions and billions of people. And they are also the world's biggest opportunities. And so when I'm out there preaching to the people who work with me at my Abundance 360, that work with me at SU and my venture fund is, listen, the name of the game should not just be wealth creation. That's great, but wealth in the service of what? What are you gonna do with it? After you've left $50 million to your kids, which could ruin them, what are you gonna do with your money? What is the difference you want to make? What is the big problem that you care about so passionately about you're going to lead? And so thank you. I'm going to start to use the word leadership and passion in what I say. But is that a fair point?
Rule number 6, stop complaining.
We're living in a world that is fear-driven to a large extent, right? And there's a reason for this. As we were evolving millions of years ago, there were so many things that could kill us. And our brains evolved a part of the brain called the amygdala that looks and listens for all the dangers in your world. And this was evolutionarily beneficial, centuries and millennia ago, when we were under constant threat. And when you hear something negative, it puts you on red alert and you pay immediate attention, right? So you see like a rustle in the leaves and you think a tiger rather than the wind. You see a crack on the ground, you think snake rather than a stick.
Because you have to think the worst case scenario
to save your life.
To save your life.
It would save your life before. Now, what happens is our news media bombards us with negative news all the time, right? I laughingly call CNN the crisis news network or the constantly negative news network. I don't have a good version for Fox, but it is. We're living in a world where, listen, there are media companies whose mission it is to deliver your eyeballs to their advertisers. And if we pay 10 times more attention to negative news than positive news, that's what we're feeding. So I coach 360 CEOs every year at my Abundance event right here in Beverly Hills and 5,000 entrepreneurs. And I'm saying, listen, at the end of the day, run the experiment, pick up the newspaper tomorrow and count the number of positive stories to negative stories, right? It's like maybe 10 to 1 negative to positive.
One out of
And it's not that it's not true. I'm not saying it's fake news. What I'm saying is that there's so much amazingly positive news, you just don't hear about it because good news networks don't succeed. And so we're bombarded by this negative news, and it changes our mindset, and it puts us in a state of fear. And fear is not a good place from which to live your life or make the world a better place.
Can you be creative from a place of fear and terror?
No, you're restrictive. You're scarcity minded. You're not creative and expansive, and you're looking to protect what you have versus create something new. And so a lot of my work at the X Prize, in Abundance 360, at Singularity University, in my books are around helping people see the world a different way, right? We're living arguably during one of the most extraordinary times in human history. Today, an individual is more powerful than presidents were a few decades back, more than the kings and the queens. We have access to more knowledge, energy, capital, computational power. People don't honestly know how powerful they are to make their dreams come true, to transform the world, to find a problem and solve a problem, right? So I'm with the entrepreneurs that I support. I say, listen, stop complaining and start solving.
Go find a solution.
Go find a solution, because the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities.
That's true.
Right? And I teach this throughout my programs. Want to become a billionaire, help a billion people. Right? This beautiful convergence that we're so powerful and we can solve these problems. Not everything, but I think a good number of them.
Rule number 7, think like a problem solver.
I have a belief that every problem is solvable. It may not be easy.
How did you come up with that? Because that, for most people, would seem pretty counterintuitive.
Well, because as I think about the world we're living in today, it's the realization that we have solved so many problems to achieve this extraordinary world we live in today, in terms of
global production of food, of energy, of water, of information. We're living in the world of Star Trek. You know, I mean, you think about that we can diagnose almost anything. I can read your genome for $100 in a matter of a couple of hours and understand all 3.2 billion letters of your life and have an AI analyze that and tell me about yourself, right? I can on one of these devices call up any piece of information, talk to anyone on the planet. This is magic. This is crazy stuff, you know, just 20 years ago, let alone, you know, 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So, you know, the realization is any problem is only a problem contextually today. And we're going to be creating the tools and knowledge to be able to solve that problem. And I believe that any problem not forbidden by the laws of physics is solvable. And even then, we're going to sort of learn where the boundaries of physics truly are.
Rule number 8, believe.
Doing anything big and bold in the world requires an emotional energy source. Right? If you want to do something big and bold, you have to find inside of you what I would call your massively transformative purpose. That thing that wakes you up in the morning and keeps you going at night. And that source of energy is emotion. It's not cognitive, it's emotion. And it comes from one of two places typically. It comes from inspiration, awe, the desire to do something greater than yourself, or it comes from a place of pain, or I am so pissed, so angry, so I refuse to let that go on a day longer. And I think part of my energy came from both of those places. It was very much the inspiration of the stars, the desire, and being pissed off that the chance of becoming an astronaut were 1 in 1,000. And then there's the field of fascination and love and creation, and just if you can, why don't you? And if we can, why don't we? And so I get excited about what are the world's biggest problems that we can solve. I'm working, you know, with an amazing man, Tony Robbins, who's become a dear friend. And it's like, what's an X Prize to feed the next billion people, right? And so I'm just literally off of conversations in the last hour about what that would be and how we're going to do it. That turns me on. That gets me excited. And by the way, it's something that is available to everybody, right? As soon as you start scaling up what you believe you can do, and the challenges you want to take on, and the belief that you can, or with your fellow SU alums or friends or family, that we can play a bigger game than ever before, the first step is belief. Because if you believe you can, or believe you can't, you're right.
Rule number 9, prioritize your health.
I think there's nothing that's more valuable to all of us and our families than healthy years. And let's define longevity in the first place. You know, the average age of hominids back 100,000 years ago was probably in their late 20s, right? And then it expanded during the Middle Ages into the early 30s, and then 100 years ago it was in your 40s. Today it's in their late 70s. And I like to think about the fact that I don't believe humans were, on the whole, designed to live past age 30. We would have a baby by age 13 before there was birth control. I mean, seriously, before, you go in puberty and you have a baby. And by the time you were, 27 or 28, your baby was having a baby. And before McDonald's and Whole Foods, before food was abundant, the worst thing you wanted to do to perpetuate the species was take food out of your grandchildren's mouths. Yes. And so that was very much a reality what we evolved during. And then all the diseases of older age, cancer, heart disease, dementia, even when aneurysms take people, the wear and tear of the body, all of those diseases were never selected against if you didn't get it past age 30. So we're in optimal health in our 20s and 30s. And then we start the ravages of old age. And what's interesting, and I think you know this as much or more than I, that the conversation around longevity, and I'm going to define it more as age reversal. Like, how do we slow aging, stop aging, even reverse aging, which would have been a really crazy conversation to have had even 5 years ago, is now become the conversation du jour in the medical community and in the venture community. And there's more people thinking about and working on it. And so I personally believe, and hopefully at the end of this conversation, you'll believe, or others will, that we're about to go into a renaissance of health. We're about to massively disrupt the health industry, reinvent it.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is fix your mindset.
How you think controls everything. How successful you'll be or not. Who you spend time with or don't. It's everything. So while I can stand on stage here and lecture about exponential technologies like I do up at Singularity University, or solving the world's grand challenges at the X Prize for a week, solid, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about your mindset, because it's everything, everything. So let me start. The first is, I want to tell you without any question, and I hope you get this and believe it, we're living during the most extraordinary time ever in human history. The only time more exciting than today is tomorrow, and so on, and so on. And we forget how brutal the world used to be. 100 years ago, in the year 1918, 250 million people were infected by the Spanish flu. 50 million people died in that 1 year. 20 million people died in World War I. Scale that up by a factor of 4, proportional to today's population, it would be insane to see headlines like that. But ultimately, the world is amazing. The other thing that's true is that none of us truly have any idea how fast the world is changing. We're changing at an accelerating rate. And for me, that means that the tools we're going to have to change the world are getting more and more powerful at a speed that is going to shock us.
Everyone knows about someone who went to the hospital and, oh my God, you've got stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. It didn't happen that morning, right? If you detect cancer at stage 3 or stage 4, your chance of a cure is like 10%. If you detect it at stage 0 or stage 1, it's like 99%. Wow. Right? So it varies for different cancers, but the idea is we're all developing cancers. Your immune system hopefully catches it, but otherwise, we give people a Grail test as well. So for me, Fountain Life is like one of the most important, reinventing how we do healthcare. And one of the things we just launched, which I'm so proud of, is Fountain Health. And so I wrote in my last book, The Future is Faster Than You Think, that the insurance industry is perverted. When you get fire insurance, it pays you after your house burns down. Life insurance pays you pays your next kin after you're dead. Health insurance pays you after you're sick. So we created Fountain Health as a health insurance. It's available for companies right now, 50 employees or more, and then it will grow from there. But when you get Fountain Health Insurance, which is the same price as regular health insurance, you get all the tests included at no additional cost. Because our goal is to catch any disease first, before it becomes something that's expensive to treat later on.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you're different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Tony Robbins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
People think they have to know how. I call it the tyranny of how. Like, you get all excited, I'm gonna do this, and then your brain goes, I've never done it before. Oh my God, what did I say? I don't know how to do this.